affair with this guy. He even admitted to the operator that it was a friend.
Burning down the house indeed, and my God, it's a scorcher, isn't it? What kind of weird weather are we having, and what kind of twisters are these? Questions we've all been asking ourselves as summer is approaching. Good evening, everybody. I am the one, the only Dean Ryan here tonight with all of you here at Real Deal Media's finest. The return of World at War. Yes, it is. World at War. Tonight's episode is called Deep State Twisters, and we mean it. We mean it. Over the weekend, there's been some very unusual yet expected kind of timely warfare placed upon the middle to the east of the United States. As you may know, some of you who are out of the country, we are persona non grata. We are public enemy number one in the international community for a whole assortment of reasons. But in this particular case, tonight we're going to talk about the travesties that took place over the weekend, when usually a lot of things happen, as tornadoes, unusual weird weather have really shredded and torn many families across the United States as we speak, and more unusual things are to come, particularly, where I seem to be, here in the Southern California regions. There is a huge heat wave upon us, but you would swear it's here right now, and that's what's going on with me. We'll talk about that. Also, some other pressing things. We're going to get into some World War III news as Israel is making their way for gusto. And so is Putin, who's now aiming to take control of 4 Ukraine regions by the end of this year alone. That's a lot of movement in just 6 months. I also have, and God, I hope I remember, a huge update on the ostrich situation over there in Canada. As we discovered through our very own Real Deal Ostrich Whisperer himself, Aaron Cates, that the answer to the miracle jabs and all their ailments lie within a bird just north of us right now, who are said to be called, as in killed, tomorrow. All 400 of them. We'll see what that's all about. Plus, speaking of that, we may have, as I've said, as crazy as it has sounded by yours truly here, we may have the answer. I may have the answer now to the common problem of the Commonwealth and how Canada, England, Australia, New Zealand, Falkland Islands, if you will, are going to be able to get out of this huge global communist monstrosity. And they may not have to look forward after all, yet look back, as in back at the monarchy. You're going to see a very fine report for the Real Deal International after the break tonight. And I can't wait for that one. That is quite thrilling, to say the least. So we'll talk about that. Yes, and you'll hear about Bolsonaro's trial over there in Brazil as it begins to unfold, as it goes forward. And Telegram was seized by the French authorities. Yeah, they don't. The EU seems to be cracking down on Telegram and people like Signal, for starters, and Rumble too. And we know BitChute's banned. So isn't that interesting? And finally, in the Real Deal Internationals, we'll have a little look-see-loo over there at a very bizarre village that is quite bizarre. I have footage of it over there in Italy called Little Tuscany, where all 6,000 residents live, work on the same street. A quite unusual scene, and maybe if we have time, we'll get to some Real Deal health. Okay, so we are broadcasting live on the scorcherous of a day here, over there at the Real Dean Ryan for now, as well as Dean Ryan TV at YouTube, so Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Let's get started with some headlines from around the world and in your neck of the woods, shall we? Real Deal headlines. Well, just over the weekend, some unusual tornadoes have made a touchdown across the middle of the United States into even regions of the eastern parts of the United States, i.e. Missouri. But let's find out what I'm talking about, as now the deep state twisters are now underway. Well, that's just right. A destructive, deadly tornado path has now bared down on places like Kentucky. We can now say the National Weather Service officials triaged to provide life-saving forecast and warnings amid federal cuts have now begun to warn us it's only just begun. The weirdness in the weather, that is. Well, spare us the political jargon that they're trying to get across to us in the middle of tragedies. Well, in this case now, what do we know? Well, we know that 23 people have now died in the powerful tornadoes that ripped through the middle of the country, starting in Kentucky. Well, the office has now forecasted a lot of these deaths just overnight and more to come. Most of this were concentrated in the eastern part of Kentucky, in many other places, but the tornado alleyway never ceased to amaze. Well, yes, it's true. Deadly tornadoes left the trail over there in Kentucky, Missouri, as you can plainly see there. Huge, unusual category weathers. Scott County, tornadoes outbreak. Several states turned deadly, and it's continuing. Sheriff's office over there in Missouri said the tornado left areas unrecognizable, as you can tell. And deaths were not attributable to staffing cuts, but they're still insisting that it is. In addition to Jackson, 3 other forecast offices no longer have on-duty meteorologists staff overnight. Sacramento, both in California, everybody is cutting the staff. This seems to be the case now, as 20% of the staff of all these outages and forecasters are now gone. You know, the forecasters that say, hey, Acapulco or Lahana, a huge hurricane, Category 8, is on its way in about 30 minutes. Those staff cuts are what I'm talking about. Continuing, well, now there's now a heat wave in the triple digits on its way to Southern California. Oh, yeah, just in time for fire season, Gavin Newsom says. Well, heat wave is coming to Southern California with triple digits temperatures in San Fernando Valley to expand. This is a dangerous time because the arsonists, the CCP, the lone gunmen, the NGOs, the Soros, the WEF, this is prime season to take advantage of the hot weather in the western part of the United States, and pretty much what Australia has been enduring the last 6 months, they're now bringing to us, and we thank you for that. Well, now meteorologists are projecting unusually high temperatures now in the western part of the United States, particularly Southern California this week, with heat predicted to climb above 100 degrees in the San Fernando Valley and even further than that. Many meteorologists saying due to climate change, it could just very well may cause fires like we've never seen before. Well, that's good to know, isn't it? At least they're trying to pretend to be honest. So this is now spurring the debate, as you can plainly see in the undertones of tonight, the political debate that is of cutting and cuts of the institutions. And they're saying that could be the key of why this is all happening. Well, we beg to differ, but Trump cuts leave National Weather Service, as you've been hearing, scrambling to cover vital shifts. Whether they scramble to approve the office supplies or fix plumbing, this time we're talking about more than 4,800 weather service employees who are either dismissed, retired, or accepted incentive offers to leave their positions after the Doge and the Trump administration has now reduced all of the staffing. Blame Trump. Just blame Trump. It continues, doesn't it? Speaking of which, well, now there's something happening in the Supreme Court. There's a huge update now, and as the Supreme Court challenge has been challenged, it's been brought. It has. Well, let me tell you about this now, as the Supreme Court has now made a decision and let the Trump, they lets Trump end deportation protection for Venezuelans. U.S. Supreme Court let Donald Trump's administration on Monday and end temporary protected status that was granted to hundreds and thousands of Venezuelans in the U.S. by his predecessor, the cancer-stricken Joe Biden. That's right. But wait, there's more. As the Republican president moves to ramp up deportations as part of his hardline approach to immigration, the court granted the Justice Department request to lift a judge's order that had halted the Department of Homeland Security's, the very sultruous Kristi Noem's decision to terminate deportation protection conferred Venezuelans under temporary protection status. Hopefully this is landing with a lot of you lawyers out there with all this wonderful reasoning. So that's just it. The Supreme Court is now lifting something that the Democrats really don't want to happen because their voting base is now jeopardized like never before. Yes, it is, and we're proud of that. But we are in a very dangerous time for weather warfare as people's lives are being upheld and unheld. That's going to bring us now to Real Deal Politics. Real Deal Politics. Just the way you like it. Well, this is something that's long overdue. Talking about James Comey, who's now under fire. Another huge story that made touchdown and landing over the weekend. James Comey is now under fire for a very, very bad scavenger hunt he must have had on the beach where he was trying to communicate, well, through symbolism. That's right, only the Comey can't do such nonsense, as he now put 8647, if you haven't seen it. Yes, those are the seashells that the seashell collector, only the Comey, could have done. He's now in huge, huge trouble. Let me tell you a bit more about it. Well, the 8647, a phrase we haven't seen since Governor Whitmer of Michigan put 8645 just years ago. Well, Comey used in a reference recently to President Donald Trump as it originated in the hospitality industry. Who knew? Well, former FBI Director James Comey is under investigation after posting a photo of seashells on the beach, spelling 8647, as you can see there. Well, he said, quote, "Cool shell formation on my beach walk," was the caption initially. Well, the post caused an uproar among allies of Donald Trump. The 47th president himself, who said Comey's use of, quote, 86 was an incitement of violence against the president of the United States. He said, furthermore, quote, disgraced former FBI Director James Comey just called for the assassination of a United States sitting president. Oh, well, why would he stoop to such low elements? Good question. Well, how 86 started, there are several theories about when and where the term 86 originated, because those are the chatters we're having just in our circles, aren't we? Well, the signs generally point to the hospitality industry, said nobody, but it originated from the restaurant industry, but was soon adopted by the mobsters of yesteryear, which 86 means to kill, to off. So I don't know where they get off getting into the restaurant industry next. And finally, here, as we stick here in the real deal politics, well, there's somebody else who seems to be coming out of the coffin lately. And I was debating whether to even do a mention of this, but I said, what the hell, why not? Is now Mike Pence. Yes, he's coming out of the glue factory retirement as he's now coming back to, quote, criticize Trump on tariffs and key foreign policies as he watches from afar. I didn't know they had service all the way down in Gitmo. Well, former Vice President Mike Pence criticized Donald Trump's approach to tariffs, and you must be like me. I don't recall asking his opinion one damn time. I don't think anyone else has. And who is paying this guy? As well as several foreign policy initiatives in a recent interview at Meet the Press. Yeah. Well, here's a little quote. I'll spare all of us from watching it. It's a quote, the initial reciprocal tariffs that he unveiled would be the largest peacetime tax hike on Americans, people in the history of the country. Pence, the dead man, told Christian Walker over there on NBC, referring to the sweeping tariffs Trump imposed on the U.S., and said he was glad to see Trump change his mind in the end. Well, just another example of opinions we really don't care about around here. No, we don't, which is going to bring us to Real Deal Media's coverage of World War III. World War III, let's talk a bit about it now. As now many people have been wondering what is going to happen to Gaza. Good question. Well, that's are blinded by the Trump watch here, 2025. Very great question to be exact. Well, now Trump may have an answer, but Netanyahu says Israel will take it alone from here. That's right. Netanyahu says Israel to take over all Gaza, start the aid flows, because there's a famine happening right now in Gaza. No flotillas of charitable goods, foods are allowed in, and certainly none of them are allowed out. Well, is this why Trump said he wanted to take over Gaza? Now there seems to be a rush to the Gaza mantle between Netanyahu and Trump. Well, Israel will take over the entire Gaza Strip, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said just yesterday, actually today to be exact, as the military announced it would carry out a, quote, unprecedented attack on Hamas, whatever that means. Netanyahu said alongside the increased attacks, Israel would start allowing aid into Gaza. They would allow aid into, see, there's nothing going in. Again, after stopping it in early March in a bid to make Hamas release hostages and surrender, wink, wink. Well, the international pressure has now mounted on Israel, the little country that should, could, or probably will. The United Nations say malnutrition is worsening, and last week, France's President Emmanuel Macron accused Netanyahu of shameful behavior and blocking aid. I mean, are we just now noticing this? What happened like 10 years ago and years prior? But now it's politically sound for some. Well, as Monday evening, only 9 trucks had been allowed into Gaza via the Kerem Shalom crossing, where the territory border meets those of Israel and Egypt, said Tom Fletcher, a top UN humanitarian coordinator. Well, he said, quote, a drop in the ocean. It must reach the civilians who need it urgently, and we must be allowed to scale up. This is terrible, actually. Yeah, there's ongoing famine on top of all of the other atrocities. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, head of the religious Zionism party, who had in the past opposed restarting the aid, well, he just recently said today that there was no choice. Otherwise, the world will force us to stop the war. So we might as well throw some breadcrumbs before they all come down here. Well, see, he also said in the military is now operating with much greater intensity. So this is what's happening. They're taking over. This is, I mean, the settlers are already moving into Gaza. If you did not see the film, if you're not a member, we showed the settlers with Louis Theroux over there at the BBC. It just really puts a spotlight of what's happening. They're already moving in more illegal settlements over there in the West Bank. So many violations, it's hard to keep up. But according to the Integrated Food Security Classification, whose assessments are used planning by the UN and international aid organizations, they're saying, get this now in closing, around 1.6 million of Gaza's 2 million people are now facing an emergency regarding the availability of food. All of the availability of food is not in way. They're pushing it aside. Israel denies that there are significant shortages of food. They're always there's never an omission, except for what you see right before your eyes. It's always, oh, no, that's not what it is. Oh, no, that's a lie. Oh, no. Netanyahu said he needed to allow the aid to stop the onset of hunger, adding the U.S. senators who support Israel had urged him to do so. Well, that was so big of them. Netanyahu's decision to resume aid flows isn't universally popular in Israel, especially among far-right members of his coalition. They believe aid should stay blocked, increase the famine to prevent Hamas using supplies of food and medicine to fund and bolster its war effort. So let's try to put this into perspective. There's virtually the entire population's displaced. Thousands and thousands of kids are dead. And the ones who are left over are not allowed to have food because, they might make a rocket out of a baguette. You see this, Netanyahu? If anything, the baguette should be just noosed around his neck to choke him out, if you ask me. That's so disgraceful. And this is what our tax dollars pay for. I don't even know what to say to that. Moving on now, let's go to Putin. Yeah, me and Putin, we have the same look when we hear stories like that, don't you? Well, now here as a major update over there at the Ukraine war centers. Now Putin is taking aim as he's taking control of 4 Ukraine regions by the end of the year as peace talks loom. Well, this is a big deal as peace talks loom. Sources now suggest that Putin remains confident as he prepares for a pivotal conversation with Donald Trump. And this is a huge deal. I'd love to cover it live if we have the opportunity to do so. Yes, a new meeting between Donald Trump and Putin is in the works, if not happening now. And new insights reveal his steadfast vision for Ukraine's contested territories. That's right, new information from a source who's definitely familiar with Putin's thinking. Let me start. A source who's familiar with Putin's thinking, who may or may not know Putin, but he's familiar with how the man thinks, is suggesting Russian president is going into Monday's call with U.S. President Donald Trump, who he's not familiar with how Trump thinks, only Vladimir Putin's thinking, that his forces will fully capture the 4 Ukrainian regions claimed as Russia territory. So that's Donetsk, Luhansk. It doesn't matter. They're 4 very prominent Russian strongholds. Well, the source who is definitely familiar with Putin's thinking who was interviewed by Bloomberg and has remained anonymous, but he's very familiar. Well, he had a quote, and here's his quote. He said, quote, Putin is confident that his forces can break through Ukraine's defenses by the end of the year to take full control of 4 regions that he has claimed for Russia. It's worth noting, although I've never spoken or met Putin in my life, I'm definitely familiar with Putin's thinking. And that's World War III coverage for you. I feel so much better that we have people on the ground, intel people on the ground that are familiar with these world leaders' thinkings. Wherever would we be without them? Oh my. What do you say out there? What do you say up there? I'm going to be very engaging. Well, here it is. We have Frank Manchin. Thank you, Frank, for being here. Frank says the following. He's in no big trouble. This is all psyop. Distraction, no real news. Nothing will ever happen to him or any deep state crime syndicate, I'm guessing. Look at Cash in Bongino saying Epstein offed himself. That's right. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, Dan Bongino. They're all controlled, even Trump. They are threatened with the offing of their families and selves if they're all exposed. It will never happen. All theater. That you might have a point there, Frank. Thank you for chiming in here. Glad you found us. I can't say that you're wrong, but I can't say that you're right. Or you could be right, and I could be crazy, to use the old phrase. But thank you for chiming in here. We have people on Rumble as well. Here we have. Okay, let me give you some of the breaking news here. Regarding the ostrich thing here, see, I'll forget if I don't do this now. I think Aaron Cates provided this. Trump just recognized the ostrich farm. Yes, he did. This is according to our source, who's familiar with Trump's thinking. Trump acknowledged the ostrich farm, and yeah, I think the U.S. is they're getting involved now. The United States is definitely getting involved. Yeah, something's going to happen big. This is supposed to happen by tomorrow. They're supposed to kill over 400 ostriches. I doubt that will happen now. But let me tell you just a tad more. 400 ostriches are planned to be killed tomorrow. They have all been, quote unquote, PCR test. Hence why you might have seen the video we showed you during happy hour on Thursday, where one of our viewers got their husband to film their little drive on the highway in Canada, and on the signs all over the freeway, over the highway, it said testing in process. Well, testing what? This could be the 5G. This could be the PCR test of the future. Well, here is a little update, just a little longer. Well, in the face of everything logical, the CFI, the Canadian fermentation factory, has reiterated that it will come and kill all of these healthy ostriches in a matter of time of their choosing without notice. Oh, yeah. This is the federal government. And by the way, this is a microcosm of what's coming to your neck of the woods. And we got to be ready. If we don't stop it, even though it's in a different country, so to speak, if we don't stop these bastards now, they're going to keep going like an aggressive form of cancer. And it's time to get real. It's time to get real. If these were my ostriches, I'd be locked and loaded. It's time to show the world what we do to vermin around here. And I don't give a damn if it's in Canada. This is North America. It's time to show these punks whose land this really is. Especially that one health minister of Canada, Dr. Tam. Yeah, we need to get our drag queen pinatas out and start going to town on these people, because they don't seem to want to stop in Canada. They don't seem to want to acknowledge sovereignty, because this is a global factor at the very top, commanding the people. So now they want to approach and get closer and closer to the U.S. and try this. We need to stop these punks right now, because what's happening in Washington, just below British Columbia, they're going to start doing mandated lockdowns that are coming to the UK, are coming to Washington State by that compromised so-called governor. They're going to start forcing miracle jabs for the next round, for the next lockdown. The lockdown number 2 is coming to England. Starmer is coming for it all. And you're going to see in the Real Deal International segment. Okay. Let me just get down from my soapbox here. All right, we're going to take this quick break. I'm going to get everything ready for Real Deal International. And what we're going to see here goes into my thesis of what could potentially stop the globalism that has totally usurped and taken over all of the Commonwealth. There might be an answer to it all. There certainly might be an answer. So you are watching the one and only World at War. We'll be back after this quick break. So we are here Mondays through Thursdays usually. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this quick message.
He sits down as he waits for his guests. His coffee does not help the time pass. Disappointment sets in. If he only had real deal coffee to indulge in, when it's chocolate-covered almonds and maple syrup citrus finish, roasted right here in the US of A, life would only be that much better. Real deal coffee. Because indulgence is just a cup away.
You don't see many wild stallions anymore. No, you don't see many wild stallions anymore. And even if he did run off 3 of your best mares, he's one of the last of a wild and very singular breed. Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro country.
You are watching World at War with Dean Ryan, weeknights, 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Real Deal Media.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to World at War here at Real Deal Media University. I'm still Dean Ryan, cruising with you in Midnight Beyond. Yes, we are tonight. Tonight's show is brought to you by the people that have a heart, and a heart for things to keep going on, and a heart that keeps wanting to beat on as you give us the fuel, the fire, the wisdom, the courage, the excitement, the thrill by going to Real Deal Media's Real Deal Go over there at givesendgo.com/Real Deal Go. And if you want to become a night owl, a visionary, or debonair, go to realdealmedia.tv/membership. And I must say, I have a summer collection that is just heating up. We're going to try to revamp the store as we are in some major renovation changes behind the scenes as we speak. Hard to believe, isn't it? Hard to believe. Also, if you have issues with any of that, feel free to call us at email us at info@realdealmedia.tv. info@realdealmedia.tv. And yes, we still have gold for now. We have gold. Okay, we're going to get into some Real Deal Internationals, but you're going to be alarmed what we're going to learn about England, and, it's coming here next. But before we do, let's take the Concorde to Real Deal International. Real Deal International, lots to talk about with England, but before we do, let's talk about Brazil. And more importantly, Bolsonaro, the man who has been targeted like Trump over there in South America, now is discussed as a state of siege, as a state of siege in my eye at the moment. This happens quite often. In this case, the former army commander told Brazil's Supreme Court Monday he had attended a meeting with Bolsonaro where a, quote, state of siege, which is, quote, an intervention, not inner erection. When something's in your eye, it's very hard to read. It's Monday, everybody. Have you noticed? So anyway, insurrection was discussed as possible means of overturning the far-right ex-president's election defeat. And so they're tattletaling on him. And they said, quote, "Oh, I warned him that he could have serious problems." Anyways, to make a long story short and a short story shorter, they're basically doing everything that they did with J6 over there at Brazil. They're doing everything they did with J6 over there in Pakistan. The same playbook. Canada's election, which I forgot about it. If you blinked, you missed it. It's the same kind of ordeal and playbook. Well, it's now happening. There's going to be a huge trial with Bolsonaro, a friend of Trump. We'll see if Trump allows him to go to jail. If you know what I mean. Now, moving on here. Well, yeah, I told you about this. Telegram is now under attack again by the EU. That's right. Quote, "I refused." Telegram CEO Pavel Durov alleges French interference in Romanian elections. Yes, the Telegram CEO, the man who heads the app that just blows your phone up. Well, all that aside, this is much more important. Is now Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, claimed on Sunday that he rejected the direct request from French intelligence to block conservative voices over there in Romania ahead of the country's presidential election runoff. Yes, in a series of explosive, they're now calling it, posts on his Telegram channel, Durov alleged that Nicolas Lerner, the head of France's DGSI, the Domestic Intelligence Agency, personally approached him during a meeting in Paris this spring and said the following, quote, "This spring at Salon des Batilis over there at Hotel des Crayons, Nicolas Lerner, head of French intelligence, asked me to ban conservative voices in Romania ahead of elections. I refused. We didn't block protesters in Russia, Belarus, or Iran. We won't start doing it in Europe." Oh, end of quote. I guess he's fighting for his right to communicate. More on this story as it develops, as the elections continue to sweep across Europe. Moving on. Well, here's another wonderful story. Speaking of which, it brings us to El Salvador, where Presidente Bukalele, who has a very unusual name too, Mr. Bukalele, a hero of the American right, they're now defining his name over there at Yahoo News. Well, yes, he is now having a weird conniption fit, but Americans don't know anything about it. Well, he's now saying that the Bukalele, who's very popular, is secretly a fascist and is really being backed by nonprofits. We shouldn't trust him. He's not our friend. And Marco Rubio, Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump, they're all turning a blind eye to the aristocrat and corporate fascist named Bukalili. Well, this is a person who's definitely familiar with how Bukalili thinks. So more on that as it's happening. Now, finally, as we, our main story here in the Real Deal International flawless show here tonight, a lot of us have been asking, well, what is Canada going to do to get out of the monstrosity of the Mark carnage and just the CCP corporate version of communism? What is England going to do as they're being completely overhauled by the Sharia law practitioners and all of the extremists and everything that comes with that? I mean, you know, they're barbecuing camels in the street, literally. They're not dancing. Well, here's a wonderful report. I think it puts it all in perspective, and we'll comment after of there could be an unsung hero here, a savior, a dead man to some. Well, I think you know what I'm talking about. Check this out.
King Charles has finally spoken, and his words are sending shockwaves through Westminster. But this wasn't a message aimed at foreign powers. No, this was a chilling warning directed squarely at Keir Starmer. The King of the United Kingdom is voicing deep concern about the current direction of the country, as Labour quietly ushers us back into Brussels' embrace under the radar. Behind the choreographed handshakes, the carefully scripted interviews, and the meticulously stage-managed summits, something is amiss. And when even the royal family starts to take notice, you know something serious is brewing. Welcome back to British Insight, because the upcoming 19th of May won't be a moment to raise a glass. It will be a historic turning point, but not one worth celebrating. It marks the first high-level meeting between the UK and the EU since we left the bloc. Starmer hopes it will signify a new beginning. But don't be fooled. This is no beginning. It's a step backward, a quiet betrayal of the ideals the British people chose in 2016. And King Charles knows it. While Starmer and EU President Ursula von der Leyen raise their glasses in London, behind the palace gates, according to sources close to the palace, the monarch is increasingly uneasy about the speed and secrecy of Starmer's moves. Ordinarily, he keeps out of politics. But this time is different. Because this isn't just about politics. It's about the Constitution. It's about the survival of the nation itself. Let's be clear. This is not negotiation. This is surrender.
Could very well be. Good point. We have people who are really opinionated tonight. We have Claudine Sorbello saying macaroni's gay. Okay, could be. I don't really eat that much, but Macron's gay too. Yes, two things can be at the same time. Here's another one. Let's speed down Rumble. We have Linda Craig, who's really on the cuffs of just completely solving the puzzle here tonight. She's saying, quote, over there on Rumble, they're building internet camps as we speak. Yes. Dame Pam says Starmer is reversing Brexit. So what you saw there, if I could piggyback on that, is the Sausage King of London, although, yes, despicable, although, yes, he's dead. Well, it's always about who controls the puppet, and he could very well be the one who can suspend Parliament. He can kick out prime ministers from New Zealand, Australia, and yes, Canada, and England too. Falkland Islands, I think that covers it. So he could be the unsung hero here, or Prince William. And I think that is the plan, because I've seen it happen in 2010 was the last time I was consciously aware of it. But yeah, Mr. Sausage King could be the reason and the key to turning things around over there in Canada, for starters. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Okay, Dee Dee says, hey, Dean Ryan, don't leave us. We love your reporting. Keep it coming. Oh, you know, every time I try to get out of this, it just drags me back in. What can I tell you? We have Jan Thomas, who says, why is Starmer so anti-Britain? He's actually a registered communist, and the communists, and especially the globalist kind, they send them their minions, if you will, to penetrate into the finer confines of society, specifically in the Western world. Hopefully that answers that. Hopefully. That's now going to bring us to some real deal showbiz. Let's get into it, shall we? Yes, tell anyone they're here tonight. 5 nights in Hotel Honolulu. Yes, a real deal showbiz. Now, I have some terrible news. If you're like me, you've getting older and learning that not everything is aging gracefully. Not necessarily us, but how Hollywood and the media types are destroying our childhood. Yes, the remakes. We all saw what they did to Ghostbusters 3, Karate Kid with Will Smith's kids, remaking timeless shows that are classics and making them complete duds. Well, this has gone a step too far this time. What am I talking about? Well, now Netflix, who's no friend of any of us, they've now made an announcement that they're in negotiations and the steps have been made to save Sesame Street. That's right. The show that stars, well, I should say superstars such as Elmo, Big Bird, Oscar the Grouch, Cookie Monster, Bert and Ernie. Yes, them. The Sesame Street crew are now headed officially to Netflix. Can't they just let good things go away gracefully? I guess not. Well, Sesame Street Workshop there, the nonprofit educational organization behind Sesame Street, made 2 announcements just today, this morning, in case you missed it. Well, they said Sesame Street will soon reach more children and places than ever before than any drag queen storyteller could ever do. The nonprofit explained new seasons of Sesame Street and library episodes are now coming to Netflix, sadly, and worldwide. And those same new episodes will release on the same day on PBS stations as well as now Netflix. The organization's touted that the, quote, unique public-private partnership is still flowing, so you can allow their research-based curriculum to be provided to young children around the world, as well as very annoyed adults who feel that their childhood is being destroyed systematically year by year, while ensuring children and communities across the U.S. to continue to have free access to propaganda, no matter who, and I should say whose hand is up what puppet. Sesame Street is what people love. Well, isn't that? Well, it was the case, wasn't it? I don't even know what to say to that. Let's now go to some real deal health, shall we?
Dr. Ryan.
Well, what you're looking at there is pineapple. And this is for all you pineapple lovers, but it's also for people who want to just have wide benefits and nutrients in their health. Well, in case you don't know much about pineapple, this is coming out of Natural News. I'm here to tell you about it, as we're all pining for an apple, but why not a pineapple? Well, pineapple is a tropical fruit in the vitamin C world, magnesium, bromelain, fiber, and antioxidants. And all the things you need supporting immunity, bone health, and detoxification. Oh, yes. Well, if you don't know what bromelain is, bromelain, it aids in protein digestion, if you have digestion issues, reduces bloating, and helps alleviate arthritis symptoms due to anti-inflammatory properties. Well, native to South America initially, pineapple became a symbol of luxury in Europe after Columbus's voyages across the world. Well, it's now globally cultivated in tropical regions like Costa Rica, the Philippines, Hawaii. Yes, pineapple has low pesticide risk because of the thick rind protecting its flesh, but choosing organic helps avoid synthetic chemicals like I won't pronounce that because you know why? We don't speak Latin around here. More importantly, pineapple can be used in sweet smoothies, desserts, savory dishes, and dare I say, Hawaiian pizzas, offering a healthy alternative to processed sugars. And these are the kind of things that we have to start looking back at now as Bobby Kennedy is leading the way for all of us to be a little bit healthier. Things we take for granted. Maybe we should learn why they were good to begin with before all the pesticides told us otherwise, as now that is our real deal health. And I should look at all the components for pears. I just bought some wonderful pears from Argentina just the other day. They were so delicious, so choice, so choice. I think we might have time for a question or two. I think my emotions can handle it. We have Joseph Chapman says, what's the latest on the ostriches? Must learn at school, yes. The latest on the ostriches is, and I've just learned that Trump has spoke out against the killing of these ostriches, all 400 of them. The Canadian government has now decided officially to go over there and kill them without even knocking on the door saying they're coming. So they're going to start at midnight. And what the Canadian people or people who want to get involved in this, they're going to have to stand their ground, just like we saw in the Bundy Ranch standoff. However, if you do, you got to be aware of FBI informants like the Pete Santilli types out there. All those guys that want to get you all wound up and saying, do this, go to this building, be very careful. All I'm saying is stand your ground, whatever that means to you. Whatever that means to you. It pisses me off too, I know. Pineapple is a nightmare to prepare. No, you're right. But pineapple upside down cake, I don't think is it? And finally, here is, we have Aussie Girl that says, Dean, Carney, and the Sausage King are good friends and have been for years. All three of us. Okay. I didn't know that. Dame Pam says Starmer wants back in the EU, which is passing open borders to all Europeans between 18 and 30 years of age. Yeah, that's true. We have Anarchy. No. She says the following. Gee, I wonder why they are great friends. Too funny how they play a theater. You don't know theater, Anarchy. Till you've seen a thespian, no? Yeah. The Carney is, I'm telling you, I think the key to this, and it always slaps in the face of your own dogmas, is Charles can literally shut down Parliament in Canada like tomorrow. I'm telling you. In regards to anarchy, I want to do a real serious talk about what anarchism truly really is. I lived in our anarchist society once years ago in my former past. I love to share stories about that and what it really means, and to take the what we think anarchy is with the Molotov cocktails. Let's change that, and we'll get an expert on the show to talk about that. That's an interesting topic too. I think it's different versions of it. So I'm just talking to myself, actually. Okay, that's going to bring us now to someone who's familiar with the way I'm thinking. That's going to bring us to final thoughts. Final thoughts for the deep state twisters. We're heading into summertime. It's kind of scary when I think back of what I endured last summer with Hurricane Beryl in Texas and all the weird weather that was leading up to it. I was stuck in a monsoon. Many of you remember my On the Road series, which I would love to reissue in its full length and cultivate all those parts into one. I think is a good look back of where I got to where I am right now at the moment. But what could be happening again with the weird weather warfare? What's happening in the UK is terrible. They're now admitting that they are dimming the sun, and they're also now admitting that there's going to be civil war in the UK. We're preparing for that right here in the US. We have National Guard that is now rounding up in different parts of the country at Walmart centers. That's something to look out for. We want to encourage people to share pictures of things you see that are abnormal, that don't make sense. We even know that there's going to be an uptick on UFO spottings all over the country and the world, for that fact. We want to know all about that. So the world is ever so changing fast. Okay, quick show notes. I will be back tomorrow with the great Jim Fetzer. We'll have an ostrich update for you. Also, if you don't know, we're also getting a lot of people emailing us and asking whatever happened to Melvis. If you don't know who I'm talking about, this Real Deal Media has had the pleasure of really getting in touch with a lot of the lost siblings of some of the great artists of our time, whether it's been Jorge Michaels, Bo Cocker, or in this case, Melvis Presley, the forgotten brother of Elvis. Well, we don't know where we lost contact with him. However, a viewer caught a sighting of him over the weekend, and we're happy to share that with you, and we'll leave you on that. So, in fact, if you do find Melvis in your local neck of the woods, feel free to email us. We encourage that. Until next time, for all of us here at Real Deal Media, I'm Dean Ryan, telling you to thank you, or sharing the thank you again for sharing a bit of your night with all of us. Until next time, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake, and always remember to return to sender. Good night, everybody.
No such number, no such song. We had a quarrel, our love stand. Alright, I'm sorry, but my letters coming back. So they try not to get the mailbox sending special deed. Well, I heard the next morning, I came right back to it. She rolled upon me. Return to sender, address unknown. No such person, no such owner. This time I'm gonna take it myself, put it right in the hand. And if it comes back the very next day, then I understand. Return to sender, address unknown. No such love, oh, no such